The first time I saw her, the rain was falling sideways like the sky itself was running from something, and she was standing at the edge of the forest holding a child wrapped in a torn blanket, her dark hair plastered to her face, her eyes sharp with fear and pride at the same time, like someone who had been hunted but never broken. And I don't know why I stopped my truck. Maybe because she didn't wave, didn't beg, didn't even look hopeful. She just looked at me like she was deciding whether I was another danger or the last chance she had left. And when I asked if she needed help, she didn't answer at first. She studied me, studied my hands, my eyes, my voice, then finally said in a low voice, "We need a place to disappear." And that sentence alone felt heavier than the storm itself. I took her to my cabin near the old ridge where nobody ever came. And she never told me her full story that night, only that her name was Ayana, that the child was her son, and that people were looking for them. Not normal people, not police, but men who didn't want witnesses. And as the fire burned low and the child slept against her chest, she watched the door instead of resting. And that's when I realized I hadn't just given shelter to a stranger. I had stepped into someone else's war without knowing its rules. And something in her silence, her strength, and the way she held that child like he was the last piece of her soul, already had me trapped, not by danger, but by meaning. Days passed and Ayana never acted like a guest. She acted like someone hiding in enemy territory, always listening, always alert. And slowly pieces of her story emerged, about land disputes, corruption, threats, and how her husband had died refusing to sell sacred land, and how she had taken evidence and run before they could silence her too. And the more she spoke, the more I understood she wasn't just protecting her child. She was protecting truth, and I wasn't just hiding her. I was becoming part of that truth. And I started driving into town for supplies at odd hours, avoiding cameras, spreading rumors about being alone, covering tracks I never thought I'd need to cover. And she noticed everything, the way I timed my trips, the way I lied without being asked, the way I put myself between her and the world. And one night she said quietly, "You didn't have to do all this." And I answered without thinking, "I know." And that was when she looked at me differently, not like a stranger, not like a threat, but like someone who had chosen a side. And that look was heavier than fear, heavier than danger, because it meant responsibility, and responsibility changes people. And I felt myself changing, slower, calmer, more careful, more alive. And I realized I no longer wanted the life I had before. I wanted this strange, dangerous, meaningful quiet instead. It happened one evening when the sky burned orange and purple over the ridge, the child laughing as fireflies blinked in the grass, and Ayana watching him with a softness that felt sacred. And she said, almost like she was afraid of the words, "He needs a place to grow where nobody hunts him." And I said, "Then he'll grow here." And she looked at me then, not with fear, not with gratitude, but with something deeper, something that scared me more than any threat ever could. And she asked, "And you? Will you stay too?" And that question wasn't about location. It was about identity, about choosing a life, a family, a future you never planned. And I didn't answer right away, because once you say yes to that kind of question, there's no turning back. And she added softly, "I don't want to run forever." And that's when I understood. She wasn't asking me to rescue her. She was asking me to build something with her, something safe, something real, something lasting. And I realized that the cabin, the ridge, the storm, the danger, all of it had led here, to a moment where I could either return to my empty freedom or step into a life that meant something. And I chose meaning. We stayed. And the world didn't end, it changed. Slowly, quietly, like roots growing underground. And the threats faded when the evidence surfaced and the right people finally listened. And the forest stopped feeling like a hiding place and started feeling like home. And the child stopped flinching at loud sounds. And Ayana stopped watching the door at night. And one day she laughed. Really laughed. And that sound alone felt like victory. And I realized then that some families aren't born. They're chosen under pressure, built from courage, protected by trust, and held together by decisions that scare you but make you stronger. And if you're watching this story right now and you've ever felt lost, afraid, or unsure of where you belong, remember this. Sometimes the place you're meant to be isn't where you start. It's where you decide to stay. And if this story touched you even a little, if it made you feel something real, then don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because stories like this aren't just entertainment. They're reminders that courage, kindness, and choice still shape our world.